of what makes a great salesperson and what makes a terrible salesperson. Well, there's a corollary to that. What makes a good sales manager and what makes a poor one? The poor sales manager is not coaching his people. 4 to 5 hours of coaching a week makes a great sales manager. That helps people be high performers. It helps salespeople accelerate. But if you don't do good coaching and mentoring, sales struggle. And that's a proven fact. So really having coaching and mentoring of key talent in your organization is critical to be to building the path to success. Our biggest problem at Train is not the market, it's not pricing, it's not competitors, it's finding talent. And that's the most difficult thing about running a business and scaling one, as I've been working on over the last several years. The last step that I wanted to talk about is just consciously recognizing you're traditionally in a hostile environment if you're in an equipment company. You want to build on the successes of a product-centric business, but you really have to educate that the service business model is fundamentally different. Installed base is the #1 asset for a healthy growing services business, so they are coupled. You want to make sure the equipment is shipping, and then you're generating, what % of dollars are you generating for every asset sold? That is just key, and you should know that number. Is it $3, $4? I'll give you an example right now. For every service agreement we sell at Train, we generate $1 more every year of parts and pull-through service, and we generate another $1 every year of turnkey work. In other words, retrofits or upgrades. So we generate $2 of incremental revenue for every $1 of service agreement in that year. Is it going up or is it going down? Why does one office only have 50 cents? It's because they never built the right sales force. So those metrics are key to demonstrating the value of the business, but also understanding the leverage that can exist. The other thing is that first cost of many categories of OEM equipment and systems are really only 5% of the total cost of ownership. These are the type of models you want to start getting ingrained into the culture of the management team, of really where the game is played and why recurring revenue is one of the most critical parts of why you're in the services business. The other thing that I've noticed in driving cultural change is there's really 2 categories of managers at our company. Equipment-centric people that kind of want to help, and then also equipment-centric people that want to help but don't have any experience in helping. So that's kind of difficult. So to be honest with you, we typically will do a 60-40. We'll hire 60% from the outside that have service and contracting experience into Train, and then we'll promote and cultivate and nurture 40%. And that diversity brings in, accelerates the learning curve, but you don't lose the culture, you don't lose the principles of how you want to run the business. And you don't want it to be dysfunctional or disruptive. The other thing is org structure. Org structure can help drive a lot of fundamental change in an equipment-centric company to help you accelerate your services business. Do you have separate P&Ls all the way down to the office for service, for parts, for equipment? So you can manage them. As soon as you manage the businesses and legitimize them with separate P&Ls, then you can put in separate management reporting. Then you can put in separate succession planning. Those are critical to how you organize. And then there's always a general manager above. Is the comp plan have mix in it? Because many comp plans, a general manager who's responsible for service and equipment can make all of his numbers just by selling equipment. So right now we have mix in our comp plan and we have it gated. If you hit your equipment business, that's fine, but if you don't grow your service business that year, you don't max out. So driving organizational structure and then also having the incentives in place and the management in place that recognizes them as 2 different businesses will be very critical as you get bigger. And try to break down some of the barriers that we talked about earlier. So this thing about talent is really a shortage. Having an industry where it's typically been a cost-plus industry and now trying to get ROI-based, consultative-led selling people into the organization and now to try to sell on value is probably one of the biggest transformations we have to do if we're going to be successful and not commoditized, which is why I started this presentation around competency building. Our biggest competency building, we've been on our 6th year of doing this, is around direct selling skills that sell value, that understand and can quantify the benefits of an offer as opposed to getting into a price war. And that's probably one of the most important areas around finding, attracting, and retaining. The other thing about driving culture is once you get these folks, what's your first-year attrition? First-year attrition could be 25 to 50% if you don't have a good onboarding process for direct salespeople. So that's just a key area to really focus on. The other thing about changing culture is, why do we have another product brochure that just shows a whole picture of all of our equipment? It doesn't do anything, right? So what we really try to do is shift the identity and create a services identity within the company, both internally and externally, that our services business is all about our people and the experts in the room. And that is critical for creating momentum around the services business. You're building internal brand and external brand. So being visible and demonstrating your commitment through communications, through long-term strategy goals, recognizing successes, creating a sense of community. When I got to Train 5 years ago, there was no sense of community for the service business. It was leadership. There was no leaders there. Now we have monthly meetings, we have awards, we have recognition. We're driving a sense of community. Let me give you a real-life example, and I'll be wrapping up. This is what we did at Train, and we did a branding campaign first internally called Faces of Train. These are real-life technicians. We photographed them at the 7-Up bottling plant. We filmed them in the St. Louis Stadium. We filmed them at Grand Central. These are the guys who are responsible for keeping these operations up. And then we put the value proposition of who we are, or our brand, right on there. And their value proposition is, I earn the customer's trust every day. People can always count on me to solve their problems. So as the essence of who they are, I build relationships with my customers. So this was first to establish in the organization at Train that we have about 5,000 of these guys that manage your brand every day. So these posters, these were posters about half the size of this, hang in every Train office throughout North America, now across the globe. And they are real people that actually work for us, and the essence of the brand is there. So this was an internal campaign to drive pride, to drive momentum, but also to extend the brand and put a face on it, as opposed to a piece of equipment. That's a key part of driving cultural change, was featuring our people rather than product, creating identity, also focused on what they're responsible for, and shift the thinking solely beyond equipment to building services. So it was multifaceted, there's screensavers, it just got refreshed, and the competition to get your photo taken is pretty high. That's another thing that really drove a lot of change in the organization and built a lot of pride. So with that, let me wrap up and just go for where I started. Services business are an important element of driving stability within an organization. It's recession resistant, it drives recurring revenue, it has great OEM advantages that you can leverage. But the key point of my presentation today was, what are the 7 key factors I want you to take away with around the services business? The first one is, let's make sure that now we're a legitimate business, that you have a seat at the executive table. Have you really put the right senior leaders in the organization to help drive the change? The second area is depth of bench. I spent a lot of time on talent, talent, talent. I think most of us should be service leaders in the morning and HR leaders in the afternoon, because that's ultimately where you're going to win, and it's ultimately where you're going to succeed and differentiate yourself against your competitors, because you're referencing brand, you're referencing the people that are going to work on that project. So you have to have good depth of bench. And how do you build that? Third one is, don't underestimate the amount of cultural change and transformation in selling, in moving the brand, and in convincing the equipment people this is a great opportunity for the company. Dedicated services P&L, management reporting, org structure, and compensation. You have to have that golden thread all lined up to scale the business. And then once you get this in place, you got to have something that's compelling to sell, or you'll have the threat of commoditization. So differentiated offers that enable growth and margin expansion through innovation. That's the concept of being ambidextrous. We can innovate, we can also be good at operations. You got to create that and foster that environment. And then what we're about here today, which was, what are the best tools, what are the best systems, what are the best processes and policies to scale the business effectively, and using technology to advantage yourself to do so. And then last, I'll just leave with I can't start a presentation on services or finish one without saying it's all about people, and that's where we really got to finish, make sure we're developing them and have a robust plan to do so. Great, thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Larry.